Hey, what's up, Derek Kirk of Effectatron, and if you couldn't tell, we're making the Daredevil Reborn intro VFX today, and we use today's sponsor, Neural4D, to create these models that you just saw. Neural4D isn't like the other image to 3D services out there. It's kind of its own beast. It's more complete in the sense that it has image generation via ChatGPT or Nano Pro, as well as video generation through Seedance. So you can concept, create, and complete all within your web browser. So you can even use a large multimodal AI GC model for 3D, basically. It's like a learning model to make 3D without any reference images needed. The workflow of it's kind of like ChatGPT, basically, like the fact that you can just make an image and then make that 3D all from text prompts and stuff, and then take that into your software, light it, then send it back to Neural4D to make an animation or add some post effects or something on there. That's exactly what we did with these Daredevil models. We made them and then took them back in and added the little dust and stuff that came out from the cracks just to see if it could do it, and it did. So if you want to make some concepts to 3D to video with AI, check out Neural4D and use the link and code below to snag 500 free credits, which gets you quite a bit, actually. Thanks again to Neural4D for sponsoring this video. Let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about the Daredevil Reborn intro VFX. Basically, it's this really nice subtle light kind of moving around these stone sculptures as they crack, but it's just really the cracking effect is a pretty simple effect to do. We have a dome light on our scene with just the studio one that's in the asset browser that's just kind of high, just a big softbox on top basically, but it's turned down real low, and we can adjust the rotation here, and that kind of gives you a cool effect. You could just animate that, but that obviously is just rotating in one direction. So if I want to, I kind of want it to be maybe like that, right? It's kind of soft, but then I can take the actual coordinates of our dome light and then animate them. So I keyframe the positions here, and then as we travel through, you can see it very subtly moves to just kind of on that side, maybe like this. Maybe we'll make it a little more dramatic and keyframe that. So now we have this, you're not gonna see it. But now we have this subtle, the light is just kind of, the rim light's moving just a little bit, right? Which is a pretty cool effect. That on itself is nice, but not enough, really. That's like a filler that's animated, which looks nice. It's kind of a cool effect to do on some stuff, but it lacks control. Especially, if you, that's why I wanted one with one big shape, because if I only have really one light source, I can control that and affect that easier than if I have a HDRI with a bunch of different light sets. When you start moving those around, it might look fine, it might look weird, I don't know. But the magic really comes in here with our area light. So we'll create an area light, and what we're gonna do, bong, we have that there. We can turn off our environment, even though that looks pretty cool like that. And we'll turn off our fog. We bring in our area light, and what I wanna do is I want to go ahead and with this area light selected, click this little arrow, go add target tag and null. Kind of went off screen there, but take your target tag and you want to click your click to place point, and I probably want to put it in his eye, right there, probably kind of the center-ish of his head as I can. All right, and then that just lets us move our other light around much easier. So what we can do is with this selected, we'll just go ahead and lock that, and then so it's going to be looking through our camera, and we can take our area light and move it back and off to the side just like that. And we want to create this cool rim like that. And we want this to be way smaller like that, which is going to make it less intense, and then we can dial in the intensity. But we're not going to worry about that too much, because we actually really want to make sure that it hits his face more like this, and maybe is extra wide just a little bit to wrap around a little more, because we're going to overlight it here, because when we add our texture in there, it's going to clamp it down. Now, we could add a gobo on there, right, through a texture or an image sequence if you wanted to, but we're going to build it inside of Redshift. So what I can do is, with this selected, go to Add Graph, and that creates an area light material. So we can use this to create whatever kind of gobo we want. I actually have a video. I have a free infinite gobo generator. I'm actually going to update it and make preset packs of preset things for product viz and stuff that are going to be nice to dial in, so you can just drag and drop. But yeah, anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to type in noise, and we're going to grab max on noise, and we're just going to take that and plug that into the physical light here and go to general color. Anyway, so yeah, there we go. We've got our white noise coming in. You can see it doesn't look that much different because this is very diffused. Now we could use a ramp as well. So we're gonna hit C and type in ramp, and we're gonna drag that onto our yellow line. So we put that in between. So now we can just like crush the blacks a lot harder there, like that. And you'll start to see it, but it's kind of hard to tell because there's no like visual representation of how this is working. Also, our light is set to be very diffuse and have a wide spread. We don't want it to have a wide spread. So we'll set this back to normal, go back to our light, and down here, underneath the shape, we have it set to spread. And we're going to lower that down. And as we lower that down, you're going to see our shadows get a lot harsher. We're going to go like 0.02, like that. So very, very soft. All right, so our light has like a very soft little edge, but it's mainly still pretty harsh. And that's made our intensity go up a lot too. But you notice our intensity is not there anymore. So we have to go into here. And what we do is in our physical light, we actually have the intensity here. We can dial that down to be more like 1 or maybe 3 for right now. Come back into our node and just mess with the scale and stuff of our noise and the dramaticness of it. I don't know what this was, but we're going to go ahead and take the scale down to like 10. And we're going to change it from object to world just to kind of help give us like a uniform idea of what these numbers are going to be. If we make multiple of these, we can kind of get a sense of what the noises are going to be. So we're going to go ahead and change it from noise to FBM, which is my favorite noise. All right, so then we can clamp that down and bring this up and clamp it back down. You can see we're starting to get a little sense of shape there. Now we just might need to, maybe see if we take it back up to 100, we really start to get some pockets there. So that's nice. So we could go like in between, maybe 50 is good. That's kind of a nice pocket of dark and white, but we still have like a little gradient, so it's not like, a step where it's like, we can really control like how much we want it to fade off. I want it to be more dark than light, so I'm probably gonna pull it down kind of like this. Yeah, so that looks good. And so now what you can do is come back to your noise, and we're gonna animate it. So we're gonna make sure we're at frame 0, and we'll just keyframe these two things here, the rotation and offset. And we'll go to the last frame, and we'll just kind of move it and just kind of pay attention to how it slides. So if I want to go up, I like that. So we're gonna do kind of that way. And the cool thing is we can go forever because it's procedural. So we're not gonna run out of the end of our texture. It's just gonna go forever. So we're gonna go like that. Well, maybe we'll go backwards a bit. So I'm just clicking and holding and dragging like that. Boom. And we may not even need to offset. So all right, so with those keyframed, what I'm going to do real quick is go to Window, and I'm going to go to F-Curve, and I'm going to go into my Max on Noise here and hit H, and it's going to frame everything up. And I'm going to click and drag all these and make sure they are linear. So they're not going to do like this slow and then speed up and slow down. We just want it to be like a constant, but like our light's just kind of moving naturally on its own. So if we hit, well, we don't need to hit play. We'll kind of just scrub through it because it won't work otherwise. You can see this is kind of the look we'll get over 5 seconds. And that is a pretty good effect. I like it. We're gonna go ahead and come in here and adjust probably the color just a smidge. We're gonna go to our ramp, and instead of white, we'll do like just the smallest amount of orange, like 14%, because I think that looks good on the concrete. It's too much. Maybe like 4%. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. Nice. And so now we can come in here with our camera, go back to frame 0, and we're going to go ahead and zoom in a bit with physically push in. And we want to see his horns because that's the main thing, right? Make sure you know it's Daredevil. And we need to backlight this. Like right now, he's kind of getting lost in the background. We can kind of see it's him, but not completely. And we can go ahead and focus this, click to focus right here. Maybe we'll do it on like his eye. Even though we can't see it, that'll be in focus. We probably should do it. Let's click to focus on his forehead right here. And I want to add a light here. So we're going to go ahead, and this light's going to be like normal. So we're going to go ahead and click add a light, lower that down, and again, add target tag and null. We could just add that same target, but I'm going to go ahead and move this target to be kind of right here in the front of his head because we want to push the actual light back behind him. And of course it's going to need to be small, but it does need to be big enough to wrap around him. I'm going to lock this again. And that looks cool, but it's too much, right? So thin it out. And you can see we're kind of coming in from the side. We really want to come in from behind. Here we go. And if we spread out that light, we're going to get that nice wrap. So nice big light right behind him, and now we have this really, really subtle wrap where before it's Daredevil. It looks cool. After, it's very clear. It just looks better. It doesn't look like we've added anything, but we have. We've just added a nice soft rim to everything. And we're going to dial it down a bit, maybe like 4. Yeah. And then we can make that just a smidge yellow as well, like 5%. Maybe orange-ish, yeah. Cool, there we go. And so that's like the basics of the lighting. So then the camera move, what we do is we have our click to focus. And what I like to do with my cameras is I'll create a null and I'll slap that null right where I want my camera to be focused at the whole time. And then for our camera, we can do is down here under the focus distance, we have an object. We can grab that null and put it in. So now, you know, if we zoom out, we're still in focus. So if I decide to change my shot, it doesn't really matter. I'm still always going to be in focus on that spot of his head. So that gives you freedom to like play around with some stuff. But we're going to go ahead and probably do like this. I like that outline of his head. And then we're going to slide it over so there's empty space on this side. If you need to with your camera, you can come down here to display and turn on the grid, which is really helpful for doing that. There we go. So we can do that down there, and that's under the camera tab. And so now we can find our first shot, which I think this looks pretty good for a first shot. So we're going to keyframe that by clicking keyframe, go to the end, and you just want it to be subtle. We're going to push in a little and move up a little. Not a ton, just a little. Like whatever you think you need to move, probably do about half of that. And by default, it's like this slow kind of weird push dolly kind of weird slide speed up thing. Again, what we need to do is go to our F curve and make sure everything is linear with our camera. So hit H, frame all those up, H. There we go. And linear. Perfect. So now we'll get it much smoother. Let's turn off the rendering. Much smoother. Dun, 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 dun. It's very subtle, but we're also moving the lights around, we're moving the other light around, and we're going to cause a crack on his head. So a lot of things happening together makes very subtle things feel impactful, right? Like we don't want to go overboard and be like, you know, when we also have a bunch of other stuff, because you're going to lose that other stuff. You want to see the lighting and stuff move around. So subtlety is the key for these kind of things. It looks pretty cool. All right, now on top of this, the last thing to do is crack him. So let's get cracking. Grab our mesh, go ahead and click and hold the cloner object here and hold Alt and let go on Voronoi Fracture. There we go. It's going to break that. I'm going to turn off the IPR for this. And you can see where our cracks are going to be are kind of where these colors meet. These are the plates. Okay. Now, that's fine. What we want to do is we want to go down here to the distribution here and now change it from uniform to exponential. And then change the amount from 20 to 500. And you can play around with this. But we're going to get more crack lines and stuff instead if you do it, you know, with more points. Now, you could do high quality. You don't really need to. And if you turn on detailing, really depends on the model. Sometimes detailing can really slow down and bog down my Neural4D. It might be a bug because I don't feel like it used to do that, but it was doing that to me this week. So I don't know, maybe that's me. But when I turned this on and then did noise surface, it would get real funky. So be mindful of that. But that is the majority of like the difficult part. So here's the cool part is it didn't actually like mess with our mesh at all right now. So what we need to do is just move our little plates because we've created all these little plates and puzzle pieces of our head. And so now we need to control those. And the easiest way to do that is with a MoGraph effector. We're going to use a plane effector. And inside the plane effector, by default, it's going to shove everything up 100 centimeters in the air. We don't want to do that. So you can see now how that's working. We're going to set that to 0. Actually, you can just turn position off. And we can go to rotate. And so we want it to rotate our cracks ever so slightly. So you notice if I split it, our shape is hollow, right? It's hollow in there, which you wouldn't expect it to be really because you know, if you go into the Voronoi fracture, you see you've got your sources and your object, and hollow object is not selected. Doesn't matter. So we need to optimize and close holes, and that is going to make these actual pieces. Let me click off here so you can see now we actually have pieces on here, and already it's looking really cool, right? You can do some really cool effects with Voronoi fracture. It's really fun when I don't play with enough, to be honest. Okay, so what we want to do to create a crack is adjust the rotation and the scale slightly. So we're going to do a uniform scale, and obviously we don't want to just like, if we just do it like that, we're going to get, you know, all kinds of crazy pieces all together. So we got to go real subtle, like 0.01, negative 0.01. And you want to see if you can see that crack. We can, but we're going to go just a little bit more and go 0.015. And now we have these nice cracks in our piece, right? But we're not, you know, seeing them here. We're just seeing them here, which give us this nice organic look. Now, we add a little bit of rotation, like I'm talking like 1%. And that's just going to offset it just a little bit more, and maybe almost too much. So maybe like 0.3 in all these. So we get just a little bit of randomness from where they've cracked. They've displaced ever so slightly, right? And that looks pretty good. Very subtle, but nice. And you don't have to do this. You can play around with this, do whatever. But once you get too far, you've gone too far, right? So 0.05, 0.04, 0.06 for that one. So we have these nice cracks. And again, without rotation, it works, but it feels like you've painted a crack on there. I feel like this adds just an ever so slight amount. All right, so now we just need to control our crack appearing, because right now, with this on, we have the crack, and without, we don't. So basically what you're doing is with your plane effector, you're building the end result, right? And so we're going to toggle it off to on with a field. And that's what we're going to control. So we go into our field, and if we do a spherical field, it's going to create a big sphere for us. We can bring that up here. Here's our big spherical field, and we can turn that down in the scale. And you'll notice right now, you know, it's outside of our shape. We have no cracks. And as I push this into my guy, he cracks, right? So that's it. So you animate this where you want, probably like a frame in, like a second in, so like frame 28, and then maybe like frame 34. You get it to your final result of the crack. And it's kind of hard to tell from this camera angle, but it needs to go into his face there, like so. There it is. And keyframe that. And again, if you want to, you want to make sure you control either the plane effector or the spherical field, but know which one you're doing, because they can get kind of confusing. So there you go. We'll keyframe that. So we now go from here, no crack, to cracking, just like that. And that's the crack. That's it. And so now we have that whole scene. We have the nice subtle move, and then just like that. And you add some sound effects, a little dust pop in from that. It looks really nice. I like it. So yeah, we took that into Neural4D and fed in the beginning frame, the frame right before the crack, the frame right after the crack, and then the end frame, and told it to make that video with some atmosphere and dust falling, and it did. And that's it. So it's kind of like using CDance as like the editor or the VFX bit of it. So it's like the layering on the stock footage of dust and stuff. Rather than doing that step, you just do it in there. And the sound design, which is kind of nice, but I'd do my own and stuff on top of it. But just really showcasing it because Neural4D uses it, and it's pretty wild, honestly. I kind of love like the fact that you can create so much in Art Direct and then push it off to just let it do a little bit more. And I'd be curious to know what you guys want to see with CDance and stuff. I don't love it for just making slop, obviously, but when it can be used as a tool that's just like a color correction and stuff like that, I don't know. All right, if you like this, like and subscribe, and be sure to check out Neural4D. Thanks again for sponsoring this video. See you next time.